Hello, so I wanted to do a video today on finding the area of a circle. So let's just crack on with some examples. In order to do these sorts of questions, the kind of required knowledge that you need to know beforehand, you need to be comfortable with these sorts of things. I've just picked a few topics that make an appearance, and that's rounding, substituting into a formula, and all the different parts of a circle as well. So I've got 4 examples of increasing difficulty, which I'll go through, and we'll start with the first one. Just a quick reminder that the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the circumference, and the diameter is the distance from one point on the circumference to another, but it must go through the center. If you are given the radius and you want the diameter, you're going to times it by 2. If you are given the diameter and you want the radius, you're going to need to divide that by 2. That's really important for some of these questions. So here's a circle, and here I want you to always check what have I given you. So in this case, I've given you the radius. Sometimes you might get given the diameter. You need to know the formula for the area of a circle. Now the area of a circle is pi r squared. Now there's an invisible times in here as well, so we do pi multiplied by the radius squared. Remember, pi is just a number. It's a horrible number. It goes on and on forever, but 3.1415, and it goes on and on and on and on. So we use the symbol pi to represent that really long number. So looking at this question here, like I said, you want to check what you've been given. In this case, we've been given the radius, and that's what we need. Rub that out. If I start with the formula, area equals pi multiplied by radius squared. Now all we're going to do is substitute in the values that you've been given. So the area of this circle is equal to pi multiplied by 4.7 squared. And if I put that into my calculator, pi times 4.7 squared, that's going to come out as, to one decimal place, 69.4. Remember, your units for area are going to be squared, so in this case it's centimeters squared. It's really important that you don't do pi times 4.7 and then square your answer. This squared bit is just the 4.7. Your calculator will do that automatically, but what a lot of people might do is do pi times 4.7, work out what that is, and then square it. If you do that, you're not following the rules of BIDMAS, BODMAS. You have to do the squared bits first. Okay, that's your answer for the first one, 69.4 centimeters squared. Next example. This time you have not been given a whole circle. However, if it were a whole circle, that distance that I've given you, this is the radius again. So what you've actually been given, this little square here, tells you that that is 90 degrees. Now in a circle, in a full circle, there are 360 degrees. If I were to simplify this fraction, that tells me that I have a quarter of a circle. So the area, the space inside that sector, we call it, would be quarter of the area of a whole circle. So to find out the area of this sector, what we're going to do is we're going to work out the area of the whole circle first. If this were a whole circle, I'll just draw it out up here, we have been told that that is 5.6 kilometers. So I'm just going to do pi multiplied by my radius squared. This bit is just the same as example 1. So if I put that into my calculator, pi times 5.6 squared, that gives me 98.5 centimeters. Is it centimeters? No, it's kilometers. Kilometers squared. Now I'm not going to clear my calculator. I've written down 98.5 ... but I'm leaving the answer to that in my calculator, because if we round our answer now, because we're not at the end of our question, our final answer becomes less accurate if we round it midway through. So because we had a quarter of a circle, we want to find now a quarter of 98.5 kilometers squared. To find a quarter, we just divide it by 4. So leave that answer is still in my calculator. I'm now going to divide that by 4, and that will tell me that the area of the sector is 24.6 kilometers squared. I can now round my answer as it's the last bit of the question. So that there, the area of this sector is 24.6 kilometers squared. Okay, two more examples. Sometimes you will be given the area of the the circle, and you will be asked to work backwards and find out what a missing length is, whether that be the radius or the diameter. So this is not your radius you've been given in this example, this is the area of the circle. So we're still going to start with a formula. Area equals pi times radius squared. Now you'll notice in the question that we've been asked to find the diameter and not the radius. You're going to start by finding the radius because that's what's in our formula, and then once you have that, we can use the radius to find the diameter at the end of the question. So I'm going to start by putting in the values that we've been given. So we are told that the area is 45.4 meters squared. So underneath area, I'm going to write 45.4, and that is equal to pi times radius squared. So I now want to undo everything that has been done to the radius. So if you think of it in terms of a function machine, here I started with my radius, I squared it, and then I multiplied by pi, and out came 45.4. So in terms of a function machine, I start with my radius, I squared it, I multiplied it by pi, and out comes the area. So if I'm working back the way, I want to do everything in reverse. So I'm going to divide by pi. The inverse of squaring a number is to square root it, and then that would get me back to my radius. So if I did that here, it's a formula, so I need to divide this side by pi, just like in my function machine over here. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to divide this side by pi as well. When I do that in my calculator, I'm going to do 45 divided by pi, and this answer, 45.4 divided by pi, gives me 14.3 ... Again, I'm not going to round my answer. Not yet, because we're not at the end of the question. We now have the radius squared. So the radius multiplied by itself gives me 14.3. So the next thing we need to do is to square root both sides of this equation. So I'm going to square root this side, and I'm going to square root this side. The square root of r squared is r. That was the whole point of us doing that, was to get back to our radius. And now I'm not going to clear my calculator. I'm going to use the answer button. So I'm simply going to do the square root of my answer, press equals, and that's going to give me 3 let's do it to 3 significant figures, 78. And then because this unit is not going to be squared because it's a length, what we found there is the radius of our circle. So the radius of our circle is 3.78. The units, the meters bit will be the same, but it's not going to be squared. That's the radius. Always double check your answer at the end. This question asked us to find the diameter. And remember, if you've got the radius and you want the diameter, you need to multiply it by 2. So all I'm going to do now is to find the diameter of this. Again, I've still got this in my calculator, even though I've rounded it there. So I'm now going to do 3.78469 and so on. I'm going to times that by 2. And this gives me, now I'm going to round it, 7 to 3 significant figures. And that's not centimetres, that's going to be metres. So that is my answer. Okay, last question. These ones look complicated, but they are, what you need to do is you need to find the shaded area. So the first thing you're going to do with these sorts of questions is think this shaded area is a semicircle with a smaller semicircle cut out of it. So you're going to find the area of both shapes, and then because you are cutting that smaller semicircle out, you're going to need to take that smaller area away from the bigger area. So essentially you've got two semicircles here. You've got the bigger one, which has a diameter of 14.2 centimeters. We'll call that shape A. And then the smaller one, the white one, is a semicircle, and that length there is 10.6 centimeters, and we'll call that shape B. So to find the shaded area, we need to work out the area of shape A and the area of shape B, and then we're going to take them away, starting with the bigger one. So on its own, finding the area of shape A is just like the second example that I did, this one here. Apart from that was quarter of a circle. Here you have a semicircle, so that's going to be half of a circle, because a semicircle has 180 degrees in it, as opposed to 360 in a whole circle. So area A is going to be half of pi r squared. Now in maths, of means times, so you're doing half times pi, and then here I've given you the diameter. We need the radius. So the radius of this shape, this semicircle, is going to be 14.2 divided by 2, or 7.1 centimeters. So that's our radius, 7.1, and we square that. Now if I put that into my calculator, I'm just going to do this bit to start with, and then I'm going to divide my answer by 2. So pi times 7.1 squared, and then I divide my answer by 2. That tells me that that is 79.183. Because it's not my final answer, I'm going to write it all out. 4283. Okay, so that's that one. Now we're going to do this one, which I should have color coded. Area B. So this is the same idea. We're doing half of pi r squared, but this time that's half of the radius for this one is going to be 5.3 centimeters. So pi times 5.3 squared. I'm just going to put that into my calculator, this bit here, and then I'll divide my answer by 2. Pi times 5.3 squared, divide my answer by 2, and that bit there is 44.123668882. Okay, finally we now have the area of shape A and the area of shape B. So area of A was the bigger semicircle, area of B was the smaller one. Now to find the shaded area in our question, this bit here, we're going to start with the area of the shape A and take away the area of shape B. So now I'm just going to write that out on my calculator. 79.183.84283, take away 44.123668882. That tells me that the shaded area to one decimal place, this is our final answer now, so I can round it, is 35.1. Because it's an area, remember it's squared. And that's it. So I've gone through 4 examples there of increasing difficulty. What I'm going to show you now is another one of these question generators that I've made. So these are actually questions I've just gone through. You can, when you open the file, as always, remember you've got to click Enable Content, and that appears in a yellow ribbon across the top. You can get questions of increasing difficulty and answers one at a time, or you can get all your answers at once. And then once you've, if you want to try a particular type of question, you can do type 1, type 2, so 4 questions of the same difficulty. When you get to grips with all of them, it would be worth having a go at a mixture of questions. That way I don't tell you what type of question it is, and then you'll be able to get some practice with all sorts of questions. That's it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope it was useful. Bye bye.